guys with another video. This video, I'm here with my 2021 college football national championship preview and prediction. Going to be giving you guys my thoughts and my prediction on who will win this game. Before I get into it, first of all, let's just all take a moment to thank God that we got to this point, to the national championship, because a couple of months ago, there were a lot of people out there who didn't even think that the college football season would even last 2 or 3 weeks. So the fact that we got to this point, to the national championship game, is a blessing in itself. Now, we got Alabama taking on Ohio State. And I'm going to be honest with you. I really thought that we were going to see Alabama versus Clemson in the national championship game. And I'm really surprised that Ohio State beat Clemson the way they did. They beat down Clemson. Like, I'm not going to make it seem like, it was domination or anything like that. But they put a really emphatic beat down on Clemson. 49-28. And Ohio State's defensive line is really, really good. As a matter of fact, this may be one of the best defensive lines Ohio State has had in recent memories. And I know that may sound crazy because you look at the caliber of players on that defensive line that Ohio State has had in the past. You had the Bosa brothers. You had Chase Young. Now, you look at this Ohio State defensive line. They don't really have a lot of big-name guys, but they get after the quarterback. And the reason why I opted to record this now instead of recording this video tomorrow is because I have so much that I want to say about this game, and I don't want to go to sleep and then forget about what I want to say. So I'd rather do this video where everything is fresh in my mind. But you look at Ohio State, that defensive line. Listen, did you see Trevor Lawrence's undershirt? His undershirt was ripped. Literally, that's how much pressure Ohio State's defensive line was getting on Trevor Lawrence. Like, his undershirt was literally ripped. He might as well have just took that thing off after halftime, because Ohio State got after Trevor Lawrence all night. It seemed like every play they was getting in Trevor Lawrence's face. And one of the biggest things that you have to do to beat Trevor Lawrence is to get consistent pressure on his face. No quarterback is going to be great under pressure. That's with any quarterback. It doesn't matter how good Trevor Lawrence is. It doesn't matter if Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. It doesn't matter how good of a quarterback you are. If there is consistent pressure in your face, you're going to feel it, and you're not going to be the same quarterback. So my question is Ohio State finally the team that can give Alabama's offensive line problems? Now, Alabama has the best offensive line in college football, but I don't think they have been tested up front because they haven't faced a defensive line this good. Probably the best defensive line that Alabama has faced off against this year was probably Texas A&M, in my opinion. So you look at Ohio State and what they did to Trevor Lawrence. If they can replicate the performance that they did against Clemson in the Sugar Bowl, and they're able to do this against Mac Jones in Alabama, then you can very well see Ohio State hoisting that national championship trophy. Now, which team is going to be able to stop the run game? Because both of these two teams can, we already know they have two of the best quarterbacks in college football. You got Justin Fields and Mac Jones. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows how great these quarterbacks are. But both of these two teams can also run the football as well. They're balanced. And my question with Ohio State all season long has been, how good is Justin Fields going to perform? Because Justin Fields has kind of looked shaky. He looked shaky in the Big Ten championship game against Northwestern. He didn't look good against Indiana. Justin Fields played his best game of the year against Clemson on the biggest stage. And what impresses me more about Justin Fields is his toughness. That helmet shot that he took to the back, I can name plenty of other quarterbacks in not just, college football history, but in football history that would have never played the rest of the game after taking a shot like that to the back or to the ribs. So Justin Fields, his toughness, his grit, the fact that he was able to fight through that and still have the game that he had was very impressive. So we know that Ohio State can now throw the football effectively with Justin Fields. Believe it or not, that was a big question I had heading into the college football playoffs in Ohio State's matchup against Clemson was going to be how good was Justin Fields going to play? Because we've seen a Justin Fields that has struggled against top-notch competition up until that Clemson game. He proved me wrong. He proved a lot of other doubters wrong. But you look at this run game, both of these two teams have two phenomenal halfbacks. You have Trey Sermon, who has been on an incredible run over the last couple of weeks for Ohio State. You saw what he did in the Big Ten championship game against Northwestern, literally carried Ohio State to the victory. No pun intended. But literally. Okay, so you got Trey Sermon against Clemson, have 31 carries for 193 rushing yards, 6.2 yards per attempt, and the touchdown. Ohio State outgained Clemson 254 rushing yards to 44. They shut down Travis Etienne, which they were able to shut down Travis Etienne last year. Nobody really talked about that heading into this game, but they just shut down the run game in total. Remember last year when Ohio State faced Clemson, Travis Etienne wasn't the dude who carried the load on the ground for Clemson. It was Trevor Lawrence. So Clemson thought that they would be able to replicate what they did last year with Trevor Lawrence, having him run on zone reads, option plays, and design quarterback runs, and Ohio State shut that down. Now, I want to see what they're going to do against Najee Harris, because Najee Harris has been the best halfback in college football because he's patient, he's hard to bring down, he's elusive in the open field. Najee Harris reminds me a lot of Le'Veon Bell. If Le'Veon Bell had a son, it would be Najee Harris. Everybody talks about how good he is running the football, but he's also really good catching the ball as well. Not just out of the backfield, but you can line him out wide and he can catch passes that way too. He's also very good in pass protection. He had 125 yards on 15 carries, was averaging 8.3 yards per carry against Notre Dame. A Notre Dame defense that is pretty good against the run, or has been pretty good against the run all year. So, which team is going to be able to stop the run game? Because I think that the run game in this game is going to be incredibly important. Because you look at Alabama's defense, I'm not sold on Alabama's defense. I don't care if they shut down Notre Dame. Notre Dame didn't really have a dynamic offense. So really, I'm going back to that Florida game in the SEC championship game, which was the best offense that Alabama has faced all year. And I look at what Florida was able to do to Alabama's defense. And you look at Ohio State can replicate, if not have more success than what Florida had against Alabama, because one thing that Ohio State can do offensively that Florida couldn't do was run the football. And if you want to beat Alabama, you have to be able to run the football. And the reason why running the football is so important, it isn't just to keep Alabama off balance, but it's because if you're able to run the football, you keep Alabama's offense off the field. And we know how great Alabama's offense is. You know Alabama's offense can score in a snap of a finger. But also, on top of that, you keep Alabama's defense on the field and you can fatigue them and you can tire them out. So, I think that the run game is really important in this game because I don't trust any one of these two teams' defense. I trust Ohio State defense a little bit more than I trust Alabama's because I like how good Ohio State is up front on the defensive line. They can get consistent pressure on the quarterback. Meanwhile, you look at Alabama, yes, their defensive line is no slouch neither, but Ohio State does have the better defensive line. That may rattle a lot of you Alabama fans' feathers, but listen, what Ohio State was able to do up front to Clemson's offensive line and Trevor Lawrence, that's something that a lot of college football teams, since Trevor Lawrence has been the quarterback for Clemson, they haven't been able to replicate that. So I'm sorry if I may be giving Ohio State's defensive line a lot more credit than what it deserves, but you have to. Because a lot of teams haven't been able to do that to Clemson like over the last 3 years? So who's going to stop the run game? I don't really know. But whoever is able to have more success running the football, I think that's going to play a large part in being able to decide who's going to win this game. Now, you got Mac Jones you got the Mac Jones, Justin Fields. Now, neither one of these two quarterbacks is going to be matched up against each other because they're not going to be on the field at the same time. But you have Mac Jones, who has been really hot. He was 25 of 30 for 297 passing yards, 4 touchdowns against Notre Dame. Justin Fields put on a clinic against Clemson. He was 22 of 28, 385 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, only had 1 interception. He put on an absolute display of how you dissect the defense against Brent Venables' coach defense. It's not a lot of times that you can see a quarterback just pick apart and dissect Clemson's defense the way that Justin Fields did. And he was looking like a surgeon out there. Really looked good. He was going through his reads. Didn't really have a lot of big overthrown passes. Didn't make any bad decisions, which he has done over the last couple of big games that he's played in against Indiana Northwestern. I saw a different Justin Fields. As a matter of fact, Justin Fields had the best performance that he's ever had in his whole collegiate career. So you look at what Justin Fields has done. On top of that, he did that with an injury. So you got to take into account the national championship game that he should be nearing 100%. Even if he's not 100%, he should be more than healthy than what he was during the second half of that Clemson game. Now, the biggest concern is going to be, how is Ohio State going to stop DeVonta Smith? Because DeVonta Smith, okay, he's not the fastest guy. He's not the most athletic guy, but he is a sensational route runner. When he gets the ball in his hands, he makes things happen. And here's the thing. You're not going to stop DeVonta Smith. You're not going to erase DeVonta Smith from the game plan. There is no game plan. There is no possible scenario that Ohio State's defense can execute to stop DeVonta Smith. The best thing that you can do is hope to contain him. And I think the biggest part of stopping DeVonta Smith isn't just double team him. A lot of people just make it seem like DeVonta Smith is unguardable and things like that. But one of the biggest reasons why DeVonta Smith has been so effective is because he's so great with the ball in his hands. And a lot of teams that he has been matched up against seem like they don't know how to tackle him. So for Ohio State, they need to wrap up. Tackling is going to be really important for Ohio State. I know it sounds fundamental, but every team that has played Alabama this year, tell me how many missed tackles has there been going against this Alabama offense. A lot of teams struggle wrapping up these Alabama wide receivers, not just DeVonta Smith, but Najee Harris, all of the other wide receivers, and the running backs. So for Ohio State, I think wrapping up and being able to make sure that you can tackle with your basic fundamentals is really important to stopping Alabama, because in terms of stopping the big plays of Alabama, you're going to give up at least 1 or 2. The big plays are going to come. But most of Alabama's big plays, a lot of people seem to think that they just come from Mac Jones just throwing bombs all day long. Not all the time. A lot of Alabama's big plays simply comes from the wide receivers getting the ball in their hands and making defenders miss. So for Ohio State, it's going to be really important that they're able to wrap up and tackle and not allow anything to happen once these wide receivers get the ball in their hands after the catch. Now, can Ohio State win on 1st and 2nd down and get Alabama to 3rd and long situations where they can really tee off those pass rushers, tee off their defensive line? Because where a lot of teams struggle at when it comes to stopping Alabama's offense is simply for the fact that Alabama doesn't get put on 3rd down situations all that often because they're just so dominant on the early downs on 1st and 2nd down. And the main reason why Alabama is able to be so successful on those early downs is because of how good they are up front. So for Ohio State, they're going to have to make sure that they're able to get good play out of their defensive line on the early down, stopping the run early, forcing Alabama to get down to those 3rd and long situations, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. Now, Alabama still may be able to convert those, but at least you have a better shot at getting your defense off the field. Because you can't get off the field if you can't get off the field on 3rd down, or if you're not even putting in 3rd down situations. Another thing is, when it comes to Ohio State, if their defensive line isn't getting pressure on Mac Jones and they're not able to have the same game that they had against Clemson and Trevor Lawrence, I'm not really going to expect a lot of stops out of Ohio State, because Ohio State secondary is still a major concern to me. Shaun Wade, and I love Shaun Wade a lot, he got picked on during that Clemson game. He got bullied. And when I say bully, I don't mean to say that, metaphorically or anything like that, but literally. He got bullied. It seemed like every time Clemson threw to Shaun Wade's side, they were getting a completion. Now, Sean Wade did make a couple of big plays. Not going to make it seem like, he was just terrible. But if you are Alabama, you like your matchup of your wide receivers against Ohio State secondary. Where Ohio State's strength is at their defensive line up front. And if they're not winning and they're not getting pressure on Mac Jones, it's going to be a long day. You see, the reason why Ohio State secondary played so well is because they didn't have to guard these wide receivers for too long at Clemson. It's easy to play cornerback when your defensive line is only giving the quarterback 2 to 3 yards to drop back and throw the football. So, Ohio State, their strength is up front. If Ohio State can't get consistent pressure on Mac Jones, I think that it's going to be a long afternoon for Ohio State's defense. Now, I expect this to be a high-scoring affair. I expect a lot of points to be scored because, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't trust Alabama's defense and I don't trust Ohio State's defense. But that's okay because you see in college football, the game has changed so much. It's going to come down to which team is good in certain situations, which team is going to be better situationally, which team is going to be able to get stops in the red zone, which team is going to be able to get off the field on third down, which team is going to be able to force a key turnover to swing the momentum of the game into their team's favor. That is the question in this game. Now, I'm going to take Alabama to win because Alabama has never steered me wrong. Over the last 3 years, every time I picked Alabama, they've always came through for me. And I like Ohio State because Ohio State has a great offense and they have a really good defensive line. And you have to be able to win up front if you want to beat Alabama. Everybody's going to make it about how is Ohio State going to stop DeVonta Smith and all of that and how they're going to stop Najee Harris. But if Ohio State wins up front and they're able to get pressure on Mac Jones and their defensive line is giving Alabama's offensive line a challenge, then you don't have to worry about who's going to stop DeVonta Smith. You're not going to have to worry about Najee Harris because the defensive line is going to take care of that. Because if the defensive line is getting pressure on Mac Jones, he's not going to have a lot of time to get the ball to DeVonta Smith downfield. If the defensive line is able to be good against the run, you don't have to worry about Najee Harris having highlight reel runs when he's hurling over defenders like he did against Notre Dame. But I don't think that's going to be able to happen. I think Alabama is going to be able to win this game. I think it will be close. I think that Ohio State is going to push Alabama the same way that Florida did in the SEC championship game. But I'm going to have to go with Alabama. Roll Tide. I'm going to take Alabama to win. 42-38 is my final score prediction in this game. I'm taking